is just do a little segue, a little sideways slip here out of our story, because we got a big thing we're going to be launching into over the next few days with the story we've been looking at from the Bible. But I want to talk briefly about prayer and what is prayer, and what's a way we might be able to hold it. And a way we might be able to think of prayer is that prayer is presence and noticing. Prayer is presence and noticing. And it was interesting. I was very fortunate to be able to do a wonderful service with college athletes. It gets done every year. It's called a commissioning service, done with the Bernathen College, who works a lot with New Church Life. Wonderful group of kids, wonderful group of coaches, amazing staff over there. And we do this thing called a commissioning service. And before starting it, I gathered all the athletes together, told them to take a breath, and said, we're about trying to find a silence. And I love this quote. Don't remember exactly who said it, but I love the quote, that we're trying to discover a silence into which another voice may speak. A silence into which another voice may speak. And I think that points right to what we're talking here about presence and noticing. We can hold prayer sort of one of two ways, and they're both logical ways, but it's sort of, you think of step one and step two, don't think of good and bad. And step one prayers are sort of transactional, and they're sort of, you're trying to get something from God or to attain a certain thing. You're praying for something. It's a transactional bit, in the belief that if you pray correctly, that good things will happen. Remember years and years and years and years ago, probably close to 15 years ago now, I did a service, and it was a couple who had left a certain church and a certain faith. And I asked them if that would cause any problems during the wedding. And they said, well, people would be a little unsettled that I had glasses as I'm doing the wedding from their former church. And I asked them why, and they said, well, they would see that as a lack of prayer. So that's a church that clearly sees prayer as purely transactional. In other words, you pray the right way and good things will happen, including clearing of eyesight and all those kinds of things. So that's an extreme example, but we all do transactional prayers, and I think that's part of life. And then we also have this transformative thing, this transformative prayer. And transformative prayer is much more along the lines of presence and noticing, and it's all held within a beautiful silence. It's where we're present to our lives, where we're noticing what's going on with ourselves and with other people. But it's not sort of the outside layer of our brains that's chattering away, making all kinds of judgments, worries, concerns, wonder this, wonder that, blah, 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 all that stuff. No, it's a much deeper part, a part much more known by its silence, that's just able to be present. Just like, oh, here's life. This is what's happening right now. Clear about that. Oh, and I'm noticing this. And it's a much more still place. It's not making a decision. It's creating a space from which a decision can be made. And again, it's not God gives us like the answer per se into that. Again, it just creates this beautiful quiet place that just works. It works much better for making decisions than a place that's worried, concerned, anxious, and all that. I mean, I'm sure you know that. Now, how can we put these two together, the transactional and transformative? Well, always go to Anne Lamott. She's always got great ways to hold this. And she said, it was a book. It's called Help, Thanks, Wow. And I love that, right? There is that initial transactional, like, Lord, help me. And we're looking, it's not just, we're not asking like whatever help shows up, just we are specific, like this is the way I want help in this moment. And that's a transactional view. And again, not that God scolds that or disagrees with that. Like, of course we do that. And think about, your children. Like, of course you would want them to ask for specific things. You may not be able to grant them, but you sure would want them to feel free to ask. And I think that's kind of the way God is. He doesn't go like transactional prayers. What's up with that? I think he goes like, okay, that's fine. And maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. And then comes the thanks. And from her book's perspective, we have this plea for help. And then help arrives, but at 99.9% of the time, it arrives in a totally different way than what we imagine. It's usually not immediate. It's usually a sideways slip. Sometimes help may simply be not something that comes from the outside. It may be just a different perspective where we're like, hadn't seen it that way. that's much more peaceful in my mind and my heart in terms of how I hold it. So that's where the gratitude might be. So we have this plea for help, and then we have this gratitude when help does show up in whatever form that might be. And a lot of the time, again, not a direct answer to the challenge that we're facing. The answer might be a friend who shows up with a casserole when we're struggling with a health thing, or it might be a phone call from someone who says, hey, I really understand. I just wanted to check in on you. Might be something like that. It could be any number of those things. And then the last part, and this is where the transformative part is, that's the wow. So I think help and thanks are kind of, the help part's transactional. The thanks part, that's kind of a bridge between transactional and transformative, because gratitude will definitely transform our lives. And then there's this wow part, this pure transformation, where we really understand, we're really present, we're really noticing, really present and really noticing, and there's just this wow. And it doesn't always mean like there's like the solution, that all of a sudden everything is okay. But we start to find a wow within this much bigger context. I think about somebody who's battling with cancer and is totally left in awe of all the people who show up, and all the help that arrives. Like, that's a wow thing. And is that an answer to a prayer, a medical prayer? Not necessarily, but it sure is answer to a prayer at the same time. And that deep presence and noticing, that's what God asks. Like, be present and notice those things. And that stillness. I mean, that's why in 10 Minutes Morning Calm, we do that be still and know that I'm God prayer / meditation, because I think that's the stillness is where presence and noticing can really take place. And it takes breathing. For me, it takes breathing. It takes closing my eyes. It takes, breath is the really big one, actually. And then it just takes like a little bit of time to get out of my head and far more centered into the heart and the silence of being, which is a capital B, the silence of God. So, friends, may you have a day just taking a few minutes. Maybe it's as part of our little meditation we have coming up. Maybe it's after that, where you just have a few minutes of real presence and noticing in terms of what God is doing in your life. So with that, dear friends, let's get a little breath. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends, let's get a little cheery hello over to here on our dear friends on Facebook, and I hope life is going well. And I really do. This morning I was listening to a podcast and it was talking about, it was actually a famous Irish theologian, and I cannot even begin to pronounce his name. But anyhow, he had that comment about presence and noticing, which I loved. Mandy, good morning to you, my friend. I hope you're doing well. Linda, always great to see you. Marcus, thanks as always for all your help, my dear friend, and thank you for driving the way out for lunch yesterday, Marcus. We had a little strategic plan thing going on yesterday. Sherry, good morning to you, my friend. And let me see, Martha and Rita, good morning to you folks as well. So God bless. Have a little morning of like present.